Hey y'all, Austin here with Outer World Media. Welcome back to yet again another Louis Lamour book review. This time we are talking about Hondo. Um, we'll start off by saying this was not my favorite Louis L'Amour book. I'll delve a little bit deeper into that here later on in the review. I just want to kind of get that out there because I'm not sure how much I'll really have to say about this book. But let's get into it. So essentially what Hondo is about is you have Hondo Lane, who is a U.S. military cavalry scout, Cav Scout. He's out in Arizona in the desert, kind of just searching around, doing some research and, cavalry kind of stuff. And, as the story unfolds, we come to learn that the U.S. military and the Indians, I believe it was the Apaches, had a peace treaty. And surprise, surprise, the U.S. government broke that peace treaty, and there is an uprising in the Apache Nation. He's get this. I don't remember what his name is. I do apologize. I should have done a little bit more research, to be honest with you. I read this probably about a month ago and completely forgot to do this review. And I don't know. I think that kind of goes to show you that if I don't remember the names really, I don't think it was that eventful of a book. I'm not saying I didn't like it or that I hated it. Again, it was average for me. But again, like I was saying, there's an uprising, there's a revolt and whatnot, and all these farms and ranches and whatnot that are in between the U.S. Military and the Apache Nation are kind of caught in the middle. And you have, Hondo, who's trying to get this one ranch to kind of get them to up and leave, and they won't do it. And then the Apache Nation comes along and they end up, allowing them to stay there for a little while. And we just kind of see, in the Old West, especially touches on in this book, how, there would be ranchers and farmers who had an agreement. They had kind of like a spoken agreement with the Indians. We will not bother you. You can come here, feed your horses. We just want to live off the land. We only want to, have a life. We don't, require more than what's needed and whatnot. And they touch on that a little bit in this book, and how, that can change at the drop of a hat. Because you had those who believed, hey, you know what, we've been here 10, 15, 20 years, they've never bothered us. And Hondo points it out that, that's not always the case. I mean, things can happen, people, whoever's in charge rules how things are and whatnot. So we just kind of see, how the story unfolds and whatnot. There is some nice fighting that happens in this book. Again, like I said, Hondo, while is very well known for being the John Wayne film, again, I'm not the biggest fan of that film. I enjoy it. I like it. It's just, I don't know. This just not my favorite Louis L'Amour book. I know this is going to be a very, very short review, and I do apologize for that. Again, I don't have a whole lot to say about this book, but I want to get it out there and whatnot. But again, Hondo Lane definitely is a guy who you could tell, he was raised by, Indians. He thinks like an Indian, and it kind of delves into that a little bit in this book. I do have a question, though. So I have the 30th anniversary edition here. As you see, I got it for like 25 cents a couple years back when you could buy these for that price, and they wouldn't charge you $10 for them. I couldn't find anything special about this versus other copies. I've done some research. If anybody out there could tell me what the difference is on the 30th anniversary edition, please let me know. I'm just kind of curious. I will say this book does have a nice little map at the beginning, and I love that Louis L'Amour will include maps in some of his books. I don't find myself using them, though, for whatever reason. I forget that they're in there and whatnot. Again, this is a nice little short, sweet story, about 180-some pages. Again, if you're looking for a short, sweet, kind of straight to the point Louis L'Amour book, this is definitely it. There is a scene, I will say while talking about this, there is a scene where something happens to Hondo's companion. If you've read the book, you know what I'm talking about. That's kind of gut-wrenching, to say the least. As someone, who likes to think they have a heart and whatnot, what happens to Hondo's companion in this book will kind of hit you at the heart, if you will. So I will give it that, you don't necessarily grow attached to these characters, but you feel for them. You really do. But again, that is my review for Hondo by Louis L'Amour. Again, I would probably, and I know people out there are going to hate me for saying this, I would probably give it a 2 out of 5 stars. Again, it's not a bad book. It wasn't my favorite. I would say it's on average. 1 being bad, 2 being average, 3 being good. Sorry about that. There's construction around here. 4 being really good and 5 being perfect. I would give this an average rating. An average, 2-star. Like I said, I enjoyed it. Not my favorite, but you know what? That's bound to happen when you have over 100 something, books and publication. You're bound to have 1 or 2 that doesn't necessarily hit home with your audiences. And again, that's not to say that this didn't hit home. It just, again, wasn't my favorite. But as always, I do appreciate y'all stopping by and checking out my videos. Y'all have a good one.